Daddy, why are you giving your kidney to someone you don't even know? 4-year-old Juniper looked up at her father with confused eyes as 33-year-old Canyon Rivers knelt beside her bed, tucking her worn blanket around her small shoulders. It was the night before his surgery, and he'd been dreading this conversation, trying to find words that would help his daughter understand why he was doing something that terrified him. "Because someone needs it to live, sweetheart," Canyon said softly, brushing her dark curls from her forehead. "And I have 2 kidneys, but I only need 1. So if I can save someone's life by sharing, that's what your mama would want me to do. She always said we help people when we can, even when it's hard." Juniper's lip trembled. "But what if something bad happens to you, like what happened to Mama?" Canyon's throat tightened. His wife had died 2 years ago from complications during a routine surgery, leaving him a widowed single father working double shifts at the factory to keep their tiny apartment. When he'd learned he was a match for an anonymous kidney transplant recipient, his friends had called him crazy for taking the risk. But something in him needed to do this, to prove that goodness still existed, that his wife's compassionate spirit lived on through his choices. "Nothing bad will happen," Canyon promised, pulling Juniper close. "I'll be back home in a few days, maybe a little sore, but okay. And somewhere, someone's little girl will get to keep her daddy because I helped. Wouldn't you want someone to help me if I needed it?" The surgery went smoothly. Canyon drifted in and out of anesthesia, his last conscious thought about getting home to Juniper. When he finally woke fully, groggy and disoriented, a doctor stood beside his bed with an expression Canyon couldn't quite read, something between gratitude and discomfort. "Mr. Rivers, you're recovering well," the doctor said, "but there's something you should know. The recipient asked to meet you, which is unusual but not prohibited. His name is Ashland Whitmore. He's quite well known in this area." The name meant nothing to Canyon. He'd only lived in this rural town for 6 months, moving after his wife's death to find cheaper housing and a fresh start. But when Ashland Whitmore was wheeled into his room the next day, a weathered man in his mid-50s with kind eyes and a daughter hovering protectively nearby, Canyon just saw another human being grateful to be alive.
"I don't know how to thank you," Ashland said, his voice rough with emotion. "You saved my life without knowing who I was or what I could offer you. That's extraordinary." "Anyone would have done it," Canyon said simply. "No," Ashland's daughter interjected gently. She was about 25, with her father's eyes and a warmth in her expression. "Most people wouldn't, especially not someone in your circumstances. The hospital told us you're a single father, working factory shifts, barely scraping by, and you still chose to help a stranger." Canyon shifted uncomfortably. I couldn't not help. Someone needed something I could give." What Canyon didn't know, what he learned over the following days as they recovered in adjacent rooms, was that Ashland Whitmore wasn't just any farmer. He was the billionaire owner of the largest agricultural operation in 3 states, a man whose innovations in sustainable farming had revolutionized the industry. He lived simply on his family's original homestead, driving old trucks and wearing work clothes, but his wealth was staggering. "I need to tell you something," Ashland said during one of their conversations, his face serious. "I've been on the transplant list for 2 years. I could have used my resources to jump the line, to find a kidney through less ethical channels, but my daughter convinced me that if I truly believed in fairness, I had to wait like everyone else. You matched with me through the regular system, pure chance, and you gave me this gift knowing nothing about me." He paused, emotion thick in his voice. "My entire life, I've wondered if people care about me or my money. You answered that question. You cared about a human life, period. That's a rare gift." As they recovered together, sharing meals and stories, Canyon learned that Ashland had lost his wife to the same illness that required the transplant, that his daughter had postponed her own life to care for him, that wealth hadn't protected them from suffering or fear. And Ashland learned that Canyon was teaching Juniper the values his late wife had cherished: kindness, sacrifice, seeing beyond circumstance to someone's humanity.
"I want to help you," Ashland said one afternoon. "Not as payment. You can't pay for something priceless, but as gratitude. Let me set up a trust for Juniper's education, help with your housing situation, create opportunities." "No," Canyon interrupted gently but firmly. "I didn't do this for money. I did it because it was right. If you make it about repayment, it changes what it meant." Ashlyn studied him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "You're right. But will you let me offer friendship? Will you bring Juniper to visit our farm? My daughter and I, we'd like to know you both, not as obligation, but as family we choose." What unfolded over the following months was an unexpected bond. Canyon and Juniper began visiting Ashlyn's farm on weekends, where Juniper delighted in the animals and wide spaces, and Canyon found mentorship in a man who understood loss and resilience. Ashlyn's daughter became an aunt figure to Juniper, and the two families built something real, not based on debt or obligation, but genuine affection. And quietly, Ashlyn did help, not with direct payments Canyon would have refused, but by offering Canyon a better job managing his farm's community outreach programs, work that paid fairly and had meaning, by creating a scholarship program in Canyon's late wife's name that would benefit Juniper and hundreds of other children, by proving that gratitude could be expressed through honor rather than transaction.
A year after the transplant, they stood together at the farm's harvest festival. Juniper rode on Ashlyn's shoulders, her laughter echoing across the fields, while Canyon watched with tears in his eyes. "You gave me my life back," Ashlyn said quietly, "not just the kidney. You reminded me that goodness without agenda still exists, that some people give without counting the cost, that the measure of character is what we do when no one's keeping score." Canyon smiled. "And you taught me that accepting help isn't weakness if it's offered from the heart, that family isn't just who we're born to, but who chooses to walk beside us, that my wife's legacy of kindness lives on, not just in me, but in the connections we build. Because true kindness never calculates returns, never measures worthiness, never asks what advantage might follow. It simply sees need and responds, trusts that giving matters more than receiving, believes that saving a life, any life, is reason enough. And sometimes that pure generosity creates something money can't buy, authentic connection between people who might never have met, families built on chosen love, proof that humanity's best impulses can still reshape the world one selfless act at a time. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, subscribe, and comment. Let's spread more stories of kindness and hope together.